First is, where is the industry headed? We see VR taking off, is it going to take off, and it's going to immediately crash?
No, it's not going to immediately crash, but it's not going to be the end-all be-all. It's not going to be some gigantic mainstream thing overnight either. You know, it's going to be a very long haul. If you just think about the awareness end of it and the idea that like they have to get these kiosks into all of these retail stores and then have someone stand by them to wipe the pink eye out of them between every demo. Like there's the logistics of getting people to understand that VR is actually worthwhile. Is extremely difficult. So that's, you know, it's going to take, let's say, about $2 billion to really get that out there in a mainstream way, but it's a very much a long haul.
The other really important question is Nintendo. What the fuck?
I mean, yeah, you know, Japan is in a really weird spot. It has been for a long time. Like I said, the PC developers won, and it was interesting to see. You know, like games have diversified. The people that play them. The types of games that can be out there, the big games, the small games, like we're at a point now where there's more variety in games than there ever has been before. But at the same time, you have Japan sticking to kind of a very old blueprint. And I think if you start to look at all the different factors, you know, you've got Japan with like a very low birth rate, they've got an aging population. You start to wonder, like, are they just aging out of video games?
Yeah.
And not replacing people fast enough to keep that going? And you know, there was a comment from someone at Square very recently talking about Bravely Default, saying like, we had no idea this game was going to be that popular because it was such this weirdly specific, narrow thing, and we've been trying to make games for worldwide audiences, and they've all been terrible. But this one, you know, so it was an interesting admission from them that they're like, well, maybe we can just go back to making games the way we thought we were making them back then, and they'll still find an audience. So the idea that a company like Square, who used to not send us games because we were a website and they figured that meant we were hackers.
You kind of are.
That they would then come to this realization is huge. But Nintendo, generally speaking, yeah, it's you know, I think they're in a tough spot with their hardware. They are maybe in a tough spot on the software end as well. Like the new ideas are not necessarily coming along. The iterations on existing ideas are. And at some point, you just have to wonder, like, who are those games really for? And is that something that a bulk of people still want? And if it's not, then how do they make that work from a business end? Does it need to be their hardware? Probably not. You know, it's a hard thing to think about. And a lot of people get very angry when you bring it up. But I don't think people are bringing up the idea of Nintendo as a third-party company maliciously. It just seems like one of those things that, like, if you could free Nintendo from the shackles of having to make all this hardware and spend all this money on R&D, then they could be reinvesting more heavily into the software and taking more risks. Yeah. Right now, they're at this point where it's like they need to sell more Wii U's, so they're like, all right, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, what else we got? You want to make a Metroid game? No? All right. Let's get EAD on another Mario game.
So, last thing before we go to Q&A from this audience, I asked the forums if they had any questions.
Yeah.
Of course, inappropriate questions.
Yeah.
Most of them.
Right.
So this is word for word. This is not my opinion.
That's a great disclaimer to start.
Is debating about sexism in games actually going to change anything? Or do the games need to usher in the change themselves?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the debate is great from an awareness perspective of making people understand that there's a world outside of yourself. There are people that are not like you, and those people should have games tailored to them as well. And everyone should be able to enjoy games on an equal level. It hasn't been like that for a long time. It's like when my dad was taking me to arcades when I was 5. My mom would go and play Pac-Man in the corner, and then she stopped going, and there were no more women in the arcade. And it's been like that kind of ever since. Yeah. So
in those arcades that we have.
Yeah, in all those arcades we have now. You have the fun spot right now.
So related to that, a user pointed out that when you started Giant Bomb, there seemed to be this implicit acknowledgement that you weren't going to tackle politics, political ideas. Whether that's true or not.
Yeah, okay.
It's this dude.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've gotten more political over the last year or two, or a couple of years?
I just think the climate is different, and I think that, games are maturing and games are evolving. And that's not a political statement, that's just a reality. So the people taking that to mean that we're getting political, like that just makes me think that they're just out of touch with kind of where stuff is heading. And it's not about, you know, drilling it into everyone's skull. It's not about like, we're going to hold your eyes open and force Gone Home into your eye socket until you understand. It's just about saying that like, not every game has to be for you.
Yeah.
There are plenty of games I don't like that other people do. And if people want to play Dark Souls, fine. I don't have to. And that's okay.
Yeah. You'll eventually have to play Dark Souls. So last question from the site is, you've expressed a desire to build Giant Bomb into something much bigger in the past. And you've said that your viewership's increasing year over year.
Yeah.
Subscribers as well.
Yep.
So what does that look like? What does a bigger Giant Bomb look like?
That is a great question. We're trying to figure that out right now. You know, we're at a point now where we are 6 people, 2 of which are not in the main office. So with the 4 of us in San Francisco, and in being in the middle of, you know, meetings to make sure that we have an E3 space, and meetings to make sure that, you know, we're on track to get this business stuff, you know, to get the investment that we need to go out and hire people and all sorts of stuff. You know, it's one of those things where while I'm out doing that, kind of trying to secure the site's future, like right now there's just not a lot of stuff going up on the site, or not as much as I would like. So, you know, it's tough. But, you know, I want to bring in some additional people to kind of support what we're already doing, to kind of give me the ability to focus on something larger. I think that right now, you know, we have a subscription offering, and part of that is, you know, video content that is exclusive for those subscribers. We do a really bad job of telling people what that stuff is. They kind of have to sign up on faith. So, you know, we kind of need to be better about what that stuff is and how that stuff is surfaced. And I want to do more things around that, and I want to do larger things around that. You know, mini-series where we're getting out of the office. We're going out there and exploring the world in search of these specific stories that I want to chase down.
More stuff like building the Bastion, where you followed the Bastion team for.
Yeah, something like that. You know, that ended up being a weird shoestring where I bought a camera, gave them the camera, they filmed the development of Bastion, gave us the camera back, Vinny edited it into whatever weekly piece, and we gave them the camera back. So, funny story about the Bastion stuff is that at the end of that process, they kept my camera. And they have spent like the last 2 or 3 years filming Transistor start to finish. And they have all that footage, and we are likely going to get our hands on it at some point.
Awesome.
So I don't even know what that is, because I haven't seen any of it. I know that parts of it were a little contentious, and they filmed some parts of that, so you know, we'll get some reality show drama out of there. But,
So I'm going to start taking questions.
Yeah.
From here, but I'm just have seats.
Hey. So first off, thanks for coming out to New York and taking questions and doing the talk. I know you have a big fan base in New York, whether or not you know that. No, you guys are so San Francisco specific since the main.
I was just like walking around the neighborhood and just the amount of like hip hop coming out of restaurants and cars and stuff.
It's really your scene.
Probably move.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you know that San Francisco's terrible.
Yeah, I agree. So first off, I just want to compliment you and Alex and the team at Giant Bomb for what you've been able to accomplish. And a lot of the content that you create really makes the user base feel like they're kind of part of the crew. Like they're, you know, the whole duder mentality is not something that I think happened by accident. And my question is, your community on the site is so much more positive than the vast majority of other communities that I and many other users have been part of. Is that because of the transparency that you guys have from your personality? Is that just great mods? Is it the premium model, or is it something else? I mean, apart from the fact that the chat is often toxic, but that's a chat.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, chat is often toxic. I think comments on some stories can get bad. You know, there's definitely pockets of it that get a little rotten. I think you're going to get that with any community, especially as it grows. You know, it's one of those things that you know, it's a lot easier with a smaller site to keep it positive. Everyone knows everyone. And yeah, I think part of that is, you know, good solid moderation, though a lot of people who get banned certainly don't think our moderator is very good. But why, of course, they wouldn't. Yeah, and it's, I think, you know, we try to be out there. And, you know, I don't spend as much time posting on our boards as I would like. but I do try to read a lot of that stuff and try to take that stuff under consideration.
Sure. Yeah, I know I was shocked when you did the transition and I got an email from Drew saying that my password wasn't working. And I was like, oh my God. And then Dave sent me an email and I was like, this is the real Dave. He's helping me troubleshoot my problems with authentication.
Yeah, what they call that is a support nightmare. Everyone has to stop doing what they normally do. It's like, no, the site is broken. We all need help with this.
I worked in software design and
Yeah,
I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I mean, that you know, the launch of the site was like that too, because we do have the wiki, we let users edit pages and you know, fill out information about games. And it was like, that was the early thing of like, oh, this is actually going to work, we're going to be okay, is on day one. It was just the wiki submissions were insane. Like, we were kind of up for 2 or 3 days straight, just moderating all that stuff.
Cool, thanks a lot.
So, speaking of the wiki, you have this weird combination of Giant Bomb of half just informational site. You have such a huge